The moment my father handed my sister a check for $67,000, my entire college fund, and told me there wasn't enough money left for my education, he thought he was making a practical decision about family finances. What he didn't know was that 18 months later, I would be sitting across from him in his own boardroom as the newly appointed Chief Executive Officer of Blackstone Manufacturing, the company he had spent 30 years building, holding the power to decide his professional future. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Alexandra Chen, and this is the story of how a devastating family betrayal became the catalyst for the most extraordinary transformation of my life. It is a story about the moment when everything you believed about family loyalty, financial security, and your own future gets stripped away in a single conversation, forcing you to discover strength and capabilities you never knew existed within yourself. The morning that changed everything started like any other Tuesday in March 2019. I was 20 years old, a sophomore at the local community college, working part-time at a coffee shop while saving every dollar toward transferring to a 4-year university to complete my business administration degree. My younger sister, Megan, 18 at the time, had just received early acceptance to Northwestern University, a prestigious institution that would cost nearly $40,000 annually in tuition alone. I remember the exact moment when my world shifted on its axis. I was sitting at our kitchen table, reviewing my transfer applications and calculating how much additional funding I would need for my final 2 years of university education, when my father walked in with an expression I had never seen before. Richard Chen, the successful owner of Blackstone Manufacturing, a mid-sized industrial equipment company that employed over 300 people, had always projected confidence and control in every aspect of his life. But that morning, his face carried the weight of a decision that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of our family dynamics. "Alexandra, we need to discuss your educational plans," he began, settling into the chair across from me with the deliberate movements of someone who had rehearsed this conversation multiple times in his mind. "Your mother and I have been reviewing our financial situation, and we've concluded that supporting 2 college educations simultaneously is not feasible, within our current budget constraints." The words hung in the air between us, and I felt something cold settle in my stomach. My college fund, established when I was 5 years old, had been a constant source of security throughout my childhood. My parents had regularly contributed to this account, and I had watched the balance grow through annual statements that arrived each December. The fund contained the accumulated savings from birthday gifts, summer job earnings that my parents had matched dollar for dollar, and consistent monthly contributions that had grown substantially over 15 years. "I don't understand what you're telling me, Dad," I replied, setting down my calculator and giving him my complete attention. "The college fund has enough money for both Megan and me to complete our degrees. We calculated this years ago when you first established the savings accounts." My father shifted uncomfortably in his chair, avoiding direct eye contact as he continued his explanation. "The economic climate has been challenging for manufacturing companies over the past 2 years. We've experienced some unexpected expenses related to equipment upgrades and facility maintenance that have required us to reallocate certain personal financial resources to maintain business operations." The euphemistic language he employed was characteristic of his approach to difficult conversations. My father had always possessed the ability to transform painful realities into sanitized business terminology, as if professional vocabulary could somehow minimize the emotional impact of his decisions. But I was not fooled by his corporate speak, and I pressed him for specific information about what this reallocation meant for my educational future. "Are you saying that my college fund has been used for business expenses?" I asked directly, feeling my voice remain steady despite the growing anxiety that was building in my chest. "Not exactly," he replied, finally meeting my eyes with what appeared to be a mixture of guilt and resignation. Your college fund remains intact, but we've made the decision to allocate those resources toward Megan's education at Northwestern. The prestige and networking opportunities available at that institution represent a more strategic investment in long-term career prospects. The silence that followed his statement stretched for what felt like several minutes, though it was probably only seconds. I stared at my father, processing the magnitude of what he had just communicated. My college fund, the financial foundation that had represented security and opportunity throughout my adolescence, was being transferred entirely to my younger sister because her university acceptance was deemed more valuable than my educational aspirations. "What about my education?" I asked, proud that my voice remained controlled and professional despite the emotional turmoil that was churning inside me. "How am I expected to complete my degree without the financial resources that have been set aside specifically for that purpose?" My father leaned back in his chair, adopting the posture he typically used when delivering business presentations to potential clients. "You're a resourceful young woman, Alexandra. You've demonstrated excellent work ethic through your part-time employment, and you've maintained strong academic performance at the community college level. There are numerous financial aid options available, including student loans, scholarship, opportunities, and work-study programs that can support your continued education." The casual dismissal of my concerns, combined with his suggestion that I should simply figure out alternative financing methods, revealed something about my father's priorities that I had never fully understood before this conversation. Megan, who had coasted through high school with average grades and minimal work experience, was being positioned as the family's primary investment opportunity, while I was expected to navigate the complex world of higher education financing independently. "Dad, student loans will saddle me with debt for decades after graduation," I explained, attempting to maintain the rational discussion approach that had always been effective in our family communications. The college fund was specifically established to prevent exactly this situation. Why should I be forced into financial hardship when the resources exist to support both of our educations? My father stood up from the table, signaling that he considered the conversation concluded rather than open for negotiation. "The decision has been made, Alexandra. Your mother and I believe this approach represents the most effective utilization of our available educational resources. Megan's acceptance to Northwestern is an exceptional opportunity that requires immediate financial commitment." As he walked toward the kitchen door, he paused and delivered what he clearly intended as reassurance, but felt more like a dismissal of my legitimate concerns. "You'll find a way to make your education work. You've always been the more independent and determined of our daughters. This challenge will ultimately make you stronger and more self-reliant." The irony of his words would become apparent only much later, when I realized that his casual assumption about my independence and determination would prove prophetic in ways he could never have anticipated. But in that moment, sitting alone, at the kitchen table with my transfer applications scattered in front of me, I felt the foundation of my future cracking beneath the weight of financial uncertainty and family betrayal. That evening, I retreated to my bedroom and conducted a comprehensive analysis of my educational and financial options. The reality was stark and unforgiving. Community college tuition was manageable with my current part-time income, but transferring to a 4-year university would require resources far beyond what I could generate through coffee shop wages and small scholarships. Student loans would cover tuition costs, but would leave me with debt that could easily exceed $50,000 by graduation, assuming I could maintain full-time enrollment while working enough hours to cover living expenses. I spent hours researching scholarship opportunities, financial aid programs, and work-study options, but the mathematics remained discouraging. Without the college fund that had been promised to me throughout my childhood, completing my bachelor's degree would require either accepting crushing debt or extending my educational timeline to accommodate increased working hours. Neither option felt acceptable when I considered that these sacrifices were unnecessary if the original financial plan had been honored. But as I sat in my room that night, surrounded by financial aid applications and scholarship requirements, something began to shift in my thinking. The disappointment and anger that had initially dominated my emotional response started transforming into something more powerful and focused. My father had made a decision based on his assessment of which daughter represented the better investment opportunity. His conclusion was that Megan's prestigious university acceptance made her the logical choice for family financial support. I realized that his decision, while devastating to my immediate plans, had inadvertently created an opportunity for me to prove that his assessment was fundamentally flawed. If he believed that prestigious credentials and family financial support were the primary determinants of professional success, I would demonstrate that determination, strategic thinking, and relentless work ethic could produce superior results without those advantages. That night, I made a commitment that would guide every decision I made over the following months. I would not only find a way to complete my education without family financial support, but I would also build a career that would ultimately surpass any achievements that Megan might accomplish with her privileged educational opportunity. My father's decision to prioritize her potential over mine would become the motivation for proving that he had fundamentally misunderstood which daughter possessed the greater capacity for extraordinary success. The following morning, I began implementing what I privately called my independence strategy. Instead of wallowing in disappointment or attempting to change my parents' decision through emotional appeals, I approached the challenge with the same systematic methodology I had always applied to academic and professional problems. I would treat this setback as a strategic business challenge that required innovative solutions rather than traditional approaches. My first step was conducting a comprehensive audit of my current financial resources, academic standing, and professional capabilities. I had approximately $8,000 in personal savings accumulated from part-time work over the previous 3 years. My academic record was excellent, with a cumulative GPA of 3.87 that would make me competitive for merit-based scholarships. My work experience, while limited to food service, had provided me with customer service skills, time management, capabilities, and the ability to perform effectively under pressure. More importantly, I had spent considerable time studying business administration principles through my coursework, and I possessed an intuitive understanding of organizational dynamics that had been developed through years of observing my father's company operations. Unlike many of my peers who viewed college as an extension of their social education, I had always approached my studies with the intensity of someone preparing for immediate professional application. My revised educational strategy involved several key components that would allow me to continue progressing toward my degree while building professional experience that would differentiate me from typical university graduates. Instead of focusing exclusively on completing my bachelor's degree as quickly as possible, I would pursue opportunities that combined education with practical business experience, creating value that extended beyond classroom learning. The first element of this strategy involved identifying companies that offered tuition reimbursement programs for employees who maintained specific academic performance standards. These programs would allow me to earn income while receiving financial support for my continued education, effectively replacing the family funding that had been redirected to my sister's Northwestern experience. The second element involved pursuing internship opportunities that provided meaningful professional experience rather than the typical administrative tasks assigned to most college students. I would leverage my business administration coursework and natural analytical abilities to secure positions that offered genuine learning opportunities and networking potential within established organizations. The third element focused on developing specialized skills that would make me valuable to employers even before completing my degree. Rather than following the traditional liberal arts approach that many business students pursued, I would concentrate on acquiring technical and analytical capabilities that addressed specific market demands in the manufacturing and industrial sectors. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Over the following weeks, I began implementing this multifaceted approach with the systematic intensity that would become characteristic of my professional methodology throughout the coming months. I researched companies in our metropolitan area that offered tuition reimbursement programs, focusing particularly on organizations that were large enough to provide advancement opportunities, but small enough that individual contributions could be recognized and rewarded. One company that immediately captured my attention was Meridian Industrial Solutions, a regional manufacturing firm that specialized in precision machining and component fabrication for automotive and aerospace clients. The company had been experiencing steady growth over the previous 5 years and had recently announced plans for facility expansion that would require additional administrative and analytical support staff. What made Meridian particularly interesting was their reputation for promoting from within and their commitment to supporting employee professional development through educational assistance programs. According to their corporate website and employee testimonials, I found through professional networking sites, the company actively encouraged workers to pursue relevant education while maintaining their employment responsibilities. More significantly, Meridian's business model and operational challenges were similar to those I had observed at my father's company throughout my childhood. My informal exposure to manufacturing industry dynamics through family dinner conversations and occasional visits to Blackstone Manufacturing had provided me with insights into the sector that most entry-level candidates would not possess. I spent several days researching Meridian's organizational structure, recent business developments, competitive positioning, and strategic challenges before submitting my application for an entry-level administrative position that offered tuition reimbursement benefits. My application materials emphasized my business administration coursework, analytical capabilities, and familiarity with manufacturing industry operations, while carefully avoiding any reference to my family connection to a competing company. The application process required me to complete several assessments that tested analytical reasoning, written communication skills, and basic business knowledge. These evaluations were designed to identify candidates who possessed the intellectual capabilities to benefit from the company's professional development programs while contributing meaningfully to current operational requirements. When I received the call requesting an interview, I felt the first surge of optimism I had experienced since the devastating kitchen table conversation with my father. The interview represented an opportunity to demonstrate that my capabilities extended far beyond what family financial support could provide, and that my approach to professional challenges was fundamentally different from the traditional path that my sister would be following at Northwestern. The interview itself took place on a Thursday morning in April, in a conference room at Meridian's main facility that overlooked the production floor where dozens of employees operated sophisticated machining equipment to produce components for major industrial clients. As I waited for the interview to begin, I observed the operations below and noted several inefficiencies in workflow and material handling that suggested opportunities for process improvement. When the hiring manager, Patricia Williams, entered the conference room, she carried a folder containing my application materials and assessment results. She was a professional woman in her early 40s who had clearly worked her way up through the organization based on competence rather than connections, and her initial questions focused on understanding my motivations for pursuing employment with Meridian rather than continuing exclusively with traditional full-time student status. "Alexandra, your academic record is excellent, and your assessment scores indicate strong analytical capabilities," she began. "Help me understand why you're interested in combining employment with your educational pursuits rather than focusing entirely on completing your degree as quickly as possible." The question provided an opportunity for me to explain my situation without revealing the personal family dynamics that had necessitated this approach. I focused on my belief that practical business experience would enhance my academic learning, while providing financial independence that would give me greater control over my educational and career trajectory. I believe that combining theoretical business education with practical application in a real organizational environment will provide me with capabilities that classroom learning alone cannot develop, I explained. Additionally, I value the financial independence that employment provides, as it allows me to make educational and career decisions based on my own assessment of opportunities rather than depending on external support systems. Patricia nodded with apparent approval at this response, and her subsequent questions focused on my understanding of manufacturing industry challenges and my ideas about how administrative and analytical support could contribute to operational effectiveness. These questions allowed me to demonstrate the insights I had developed through my informal exposure to industry dynamics, while showing that I understood the practical applications of business administration principles in manufacturing environments. The interview concluded with Patricia explaining the tuition reimbursement program in detail and outlining the advancement opportunities available to employees who demonstrated exceptional performance and continued professional development. The program would cover 80% of tuition costs for courses directly related to business or manufacturing, provided that I maintained a GPA above 3.5 and remained employed with the company for at least 2 years following graduation. Alexandra, I'm impressed with your analytical approach and your understanding of our industry challenges, Patricia said as the interview concluded. I believe you could contribute significantly to our operations while benefiting from our professional development programs. I'll be making my hiring decision by early next week. As I drove home from the interview, I felt a sense of possibility that had been absent since the morning my father had redirected my college fund to my sister's Northwestern education. The opportunity at Meridian represented more than just employment and tuition assistance. It was the foundation for building a career trajectory that would ultimately demonstrate the short-sightedness of my father's decision to prioritize prestigious credentials over actual capability and determination. That evening, I updated my independence strategy to incorporate the potential Meridian opportunity, while continuing to pursue backup options in case this particular path did not materialize. I had learned that success required multiple contingency plans rather than dependence on any single outcome, regardless of how promising it might appear. The call from Patricia came the following Tuesday morning while I was reviewing for a macroeconomics exam. Her voice carried obvious pleasure as she offered me the position and outlined the terms of employment, including starting salary, benefits, and the educational assistance program details. The offer exceeded my expectations in every significant aspect, providing financial resources that would actually leave me in a stronger position than I would have been with family support alone. I'm delighted to accept your offer, I replied, maintaining professional composure despite the excitement that was building inside me. When would you like me to begin? How about Monday morning? Patricia responded. That will give you time to complete any arrangements necessary for balancing your work and educational responsibilities. As I hung up the phone, I realized that my father's decision to redirect my college fund had inadvertently created the opportunity for me to build something far more valuable than he could have provided through financial support alone. The necessity of earning my own way had forced me to develop resourcefulness, strategic thinking, and professional capabilities that would serve as the foundation for achievements that family money could never purchase. That afternoon, I called my parents to inform them of my new employment opportunity, carefully framing the development as positive news rather than a consequence of their financial decisions. My father's response was characteristically brief and focused on practical considerations rather than recognition of the initiative I had demonstrated in securing this position. That sounds like a reasonable approach to completing your education, he said. Meridian has a solid reputation in the industry. The experience should be valuable regardless of your long-term career direction. His casual acknowledgement of my achievement, without any recognition of the circumstances that had made this path necessary, confirmed that he viewed my situation as a minor inconvenience rather than a significant personal and financial challenge that I had overcome through my own efforts. This lack of understanding would prove to be a critical miscalculation that would influence our relationship in ways he could not have anticipated. As I prepared for my first day at Meridian Industrial Solutions, I reflected on how dramatically my life had changed in the 6 weeks since that devastating kitchen table conversation. What had initially appeared to be a catastrophic setback had transformed into an opportunity to build independence, professional capabilities, and financial security through my own efforts rather than family support. The college fund that had been redirected to my sister represented security and convenience, but the path I was now pursuing offered something far more valuable: the knowledge that I could create opportunities and overcome challenges through strategic thinking, hard work, and systematic execution. These capabilities would prove to be worth far more than the $67,000 that my father had deemed insufficient to support my potential. Monday morning arrived with clear skies and the sense that I was beginning a journey that would fundamentally reshape my understanding of my own capabilities and potential. As I drove toward Meridian's facility for my first day of employment, I carried with me the determination to prove that my father's assessment of my sister's superior investment potential was not merely incorrect, but spectacularly short-sighted. The foundation of my future had been shattered by his decision, but from those broken pieces, I was building something far stronger and more enduring than anything that family financial support could have provided. The real education was just beginning. My first morning at Meridian Industrial Solutions began at 7:30 a.m., with a comprehensive orientation that would introduce me to the organizational structure, operational procedures, and performance, expectations that would define my professional development over the coming months. Patricia Williams met me at the main entrance, providing a security badge and employee handbook, before conducting a detailed facility tour that revealed the complexity and sophistication of the manufacturing processes I would be supporting. The administrative offices occupied the second floor of the main building, positioned strategically to provide oversight of the production floor while maintaining the quiet environment necessary for analytical work and client communications. My assigned workspace was a cubicle positioned near the operations analysis department, where I would have regular interaction with senior staff members responsible for process optimization and efficiency measurement. Patricia introduced me to the various department heads and key personnel who would be involved in my training and ongoing professional development. The operations manager, James Rodriguez, had 15 years of experience in manufacturing logistics and would serve as my primary mentor for understanding production workflows and material management systems. The Quality Assurance Director, Susan Martinez, would provide training in statistical analysis and compliance monitoring procedures that were essential for maintaining client contracts and regulatory requirements. What struck me immediately about Meridian's organizational culture was the emphasis placed on continuous improvement and data-driven decision-making. Unlike many manufacturing companies that relied primarily on traditional methods and institutional knowledge, Meridian had implemented sophisticated tracking systems that monitored every aspect of production efficiency, quality metrics, and resource utilization. This analytical approach resonated with my academic background and natural inclination towards systematic problem-solving. During my first week, I was assigned to shadow different department supervisors to understand how various functions contributed to overall operational effectiveness. This rotation provided me with comprehensive exposure to procurement processes, production scheduling, quality control procedures, inventory management systems, and client relationship protocols. Each department operated with specific metrics and objectives, but I began to notice interconnections and dependencies that were not always recognized or optimized within the current organizational structure. The procurement department, led by Michael Chang, managed supplier relationships and material ordering systems that directly impacted production scheduling and inventory costs. However, their forecasting methods relied heavily on historical patterns, rather than incorporating real-time production data or market trend analysis that could improve accuracy and reduce waste. This disconnect between forecasting and actual operational requirements created recurring challenges that required constant manual adjustments and expedited ordering procedures. In the production scheduling department, Supervisor Linda Thompson coordinated manufacturing priorities based on client delivery requirements and equipment availability. Her approach was methodical and effective for managing routine orders, but the system struggled to accommodate rush requests or priority changes that occurred frequently in the competitive manufacturing environment. The lack of integrated communication between scheduling and procurement often resulted in material shortages or excess inventory that impacted both efficiency and profitability. Quality assurance operated with rigorous standards and comprehensive testing procedures that ensured client specifications were consistently met or exceeded. Susan Martinez had developed detailed protocols for statistical process control and defect tracking that provided valuable data about production performance. However, this information was primarily used for compliance reporting rather than proactive process improvement, representing a missed opportunity for optimizing manufacturing effectiveness. The Client Services Department, managed by Robert Kim, maintained relationships with major accounts and coordinated custom project requirements that often involved complex specifications and tight delivery schedules. Their communication with internal departments was professional and thorough, but the information flow was primarily one-directional, with limited feedback mechanisms that could help clients understand manufacturing constraints or suggest alternative approaches that might improve outcomes for both parties. As I observed these various departments during my initial training period, I began developing what I privately termed my systems perspective on organizational effectiveness. Rather than viewing each function as an isolated component, I started mapping the relationships and information flows that connected different activities and identifying opportunities where improved coordination could enhance overall performance. My analytical approach attracted attention from supervisors who appreciated my questions and suggestions for minor process improvements. James Rodriguez particularly encouraged my systematic observation methods, explaining that many employees performed their assigned tasks effectively, but rarely developed comprehensive understanding of how their work connected to broader organizational objectives. Alexandra, you have an unusual ability to see patterns and connections that others miss, he commented during my second week. That kind of systems thinking is valuable in manufacturing environments where small improvements can have significant cumulative effects on productivity and profitability. This recognition of my analytical capabilities provided motivation to deepen my observation and documentation efforts. I began maintaining detailed notes about process inefficiencies, communication gaps, and improvement opportunities that I identified during my daily activities. These observations were not part of my formal job responsibilities, but I treated them as an informal research project that would enhance my understanding of manufacturing operations while potentially providing value to the organization. The evening shift provided additional learning opportunities that most day shift employees never experienced. With Patricia's approval, I occasionally stayed late to observe how operations differed during off-peak hours when different supervisors managed reduced staffing levels. The evening crew had developed several innovative approaches to maintaining productivity with fewer resources, including workflow modifications and communication protocols that could potentially benefit day shift operations if properly implemented. Carlos Mendoza, the evening shift supervisor, became an invaluable mentor who helped me understand the practical realities of manufacturing operations that were not captured in formal procedures or training materials. His 15 years of experience had taught him to identify the root causes of recurring problems, rather than simply addressing symptoms, and his approach to problem-solving complemented my academic training with real-world insights. Most people see problems as isolated incidents, Carlos explained during one of our evening conversations. But experienced supervisors learn to recognize patterns and address underlying causes that prevent problems from recurring. That kind of thinking separates good employees from exceptional ones. His mentorship encouraged me to move beyond simple observation to develop hypotheses about process improvements that could be tested and validated through systematic analysis. I began creating what I called improvement proposals that documented specific inefficiencies along with suggested solutions and projected benefits. These proposals were not formal recommendations, but rather exercises in applied problem solving that helped me develop skills in analytical thinking and strategic planning. My academic coursework provided theoretical frameworks for understanding organizational behavior, operations management, and statistical analysis. But my daily experience at Meridian allowed me to apply these concepts in practical situations with measurable outcomes. The combination of classroom learning and workplace application created a synergistic educational experience that was far more comprehensive than either component would have provided independently. The tuition reimbursement program enabled me to enroll in advanced courses that directly supported my professional development at Meridian. I selected classes in operations research, supply chain management, and statistical quality control that provided technical knowledge directly applicable to manufacturing challenges I encountered daily. My professors were impressed with the practical examples I could provide from actual workplace experience, and my classmates often sought my insights about real-world applications of theoretical concepts. During my third month at Meridian, an unexpected opportunity arose that would test my analytical capabilities and provide a platform for demonstrating the value of my systematic approach to process improvement. The company had experienced recurring problems with a major client account that involved precision components for aerospace applications. The specifications were extremely demanding, and the production process required careful coordination between multiple departments to ensure quality. Standards were consistently met. The client, Aerospace Dynamics Corporation, had expressed growing frustration with delivery delays and occasional quality inconsistencies that were affecting their own production schedules. Their account represented nearly 15% of Meridian's annual revenue, making client satisfaction a critical priority for company leadership. Traditional approaches to addressing their concerns had provided temporary improvements but had not resolved the underlying issues that continued to generate problems. Patricia Williams asked me to participate in a cross-functional team that would conduct a comprehensive analysis of the aerospace dynamics production process to identify root causes of the recurring problems and develop sustainable solutions. This assignment represented a significant increase in responsibility and visibility within the organization, providing an opportunity to apply my analytical methods to a high-stakes business challenge. The team included representatives from procurement, production scheduling, quality assurance, and client services, along with 2 senior engineers who understood the technical requirements of aerospace component manufacturing. My role was to provide administrative support and data analysis that would help the team understand patterns and relationships that might not be apparent from individual departmental perspectives. I approached this assignment with the same systematic methodology I had been developing throughout my employment at Meridian. Rather than focusing immediately on obvious problems or quick solutions, I began by mapping the entire production process, from initial order receipt through final delivery, documenting every decision point, information transfer, and quality checkpoint that affected the aerospace components. This process mapping revealed several critical insights that had not been apparent to team members who were familiar with individual aspects of the production workflow, but had never examined the complete system from an integrated perspective. The root causes of delivery delays and quality inconsistencies were not isolated incidents, but rather predictable consequences of coordination gaps and communication breakdowns that occurred at specific points in the production process. The procurement department was ordering materials based on standard lead times that did not account for the additional quality verification procedures required for aerospace applications. This created scheduling pressures that forced production supervisors to choose between meeting delivery commitments and maintaining rigorous quality standards. When they prioritized delivery schedules, quality problems increased. When they prioritized quality procedures, delivery delays became inevitable. The production scheduling system treated aerospace components as standard manufacturing jobs with minor specification modifications rather than recognizing them as specialized products that required dedicated workflow processes and resource allocation. This approach worked adequately when aerospace orders represented a small percentage of total production volume, But as the account had grown, the scheduling conflicts and resource competition had created increasingly serious operational challenges. Quality. Assurance procedures for aerospace components were comprehensive and effective, but they were implemented as additional steps rather than integrated processes that could be coordinated with production scheduling and material procurement to optimize overall efficiency. This reactive approach to quality management created bottlenecks and rework requirements that could have been prevented through proactive process design. Client services communication with Aerospace Dynamics was professional and responsive, but it was based on standard delivery commitments rather than realistic scheduling that accounted for the specialized requirements of their components. This disconnect between client expectations and operational capabilities created recurring disappointments that damaged the relationship despite everyone's best intentions. My analysis documented these systemic issues along with specific recommendations for process modifications that would address root causes rather than symptoms. The recommendations involved relatively minor changes to existing procedures rather than major system overhauls, making implementation feasible within current resource constraints, while providing significant improvements in both delivery performance and quality consistency. The team review of my analysis generated considerable discussion and initial skepticism from department representatives who questioned whether such straightforward modifications could resolve problems that had persisted for months despite previous improvement efforts. However, the logical framework and supporting documentation I provided made it difficult to dismiss the recommendations without serious consideration. James Rodriguez advocated for implementing a pilot test of the proposed modifications, arguing that the low-risk nature of the changes justified experimental validation of the analysis. Patricia Williams agreed to authorize a 60-day trial period during which the recommended process modifications would be implemented for all Aerospace Dynamics orders while maintaining careful measurement of delivery performance and quality metrics. The pilot implementation required coordination between multiple departments and close monitoring to ensure that the process modifications were executed consistently and effectively. I was assigned to track performance data and coordinate communication between departments to address any implementation challenges that arose during the trial period. The results exceeded everyone's expectations, including my own optimistic projections. Delivery performance for Aerospace Dynamics components improved from 73% on-time delivery to 96% on-time delivery within the first month of implementation. Quality metrics showed similar improvement, with defect rates declining from 1% to 3% over the same period. Perhaps most significantly, the process modifications reduced total production time per component by approximately 12%, creating capacity for additional orders without requiring overtime labor or equipment investments. The success of the Aerospace Dynamics Process Improvement Initiative established my reputation within Meridian as someone who could analyze complex operational challenges and develop practical solutions that delivered measurable results. More importantly, it validated my systematic approach to problem-solving and confirmed that my academic training, combined with careful observation and analytical thinking, could provide value that extended far beyond my formal job responsibilities. Patricia Williams scheduled a performance review meeting to discuss my contributions to the company and explore opportunities for expanded responsibilities that would better utilize my demonstrated capabilities. The meeting took place in her office on a Friday afternoon in late July, approximately 4 months after I had begun employment at Meridian Industrial Solutions. "Alexandra, your work on the Aerospace Dynamics project has been exceptional," Patricia began. "Your analytical approach and attention to systematic relationships have provided insights that our experienced team members had not recognized despite their years of industry knowledge. I believe you have significant potential for advancement within our organization." The performance review discussion covered my academic progress, professional development goals, and interest in pursuing additional responsibilities that would accelerate my learning while contributing more directly to company strategic objectives. Patricia explained that Meridian was considering the creation of a process improvement specialist position that would focus specifically on identifying and implementing operational enhancements across all departments and client accounts. This position would represent a substantial increase in responsibility and compensation, she explained. It would also provide you with exposure to senior management decision-making processes and strategic planning activities that could significantly enhance your professional development and career advancement potential. The opportunity represented everything I had hoped to achieve through my systematic approach to building professional capabilities while completing my education. The process improvement specialist role would provide direct application of my analytical skills to high-impact business challenges while positioning me for continued advancement within the manufacturing industry. However, I also recognized that accepting this promotion would require careful consideration of how it would affect my long-term career objectives and my underlying commitment to demonstrating that capability and determination could produce superior results compared to privilege and family financial support. The path I was building at Meridian was already exceeding my initial expectations, but I wanted to ensure that my decisions were aligned with strategic rather than opportunistic thinking. That weekend, I conducted a comprehensive analysis of my current situation and future options, applying the same systematic methodology I had used for business problem solving to my personal career planning. The progress I had made at Meridian in just 4 months had validated my belief that strategic thinking and systematic execution could create opportunities that were not dependent on external advantages or support systems. My sister Megan was completing her first year at Northwestern University, benefiting from the prestigious educational environment and networking opportunities that my father had prioritized when making his college fund allocation decision. However, her academic performance had been mediocre, and her approach to college appeared focused more on social activities than professional development. The contrast between our respective trajectories was becoming increasingly apparent, though my parents had not yet recognized the significance of this divergence. More importantly, my experience at Meridian had provided me with insights into manufacturing industry dynamics that went far beyond what most business school graduates possessed upon entering the workforce. I understood operational challenges, process optimization methods, and organizational effectiveness principles from both theoretical and practical perspectives. This combination of knowledge and experience was creating a foundation for career advancement that would be difficult for others to replicate, regardless of their educational pedigree or family connections. The decision to accept the process improvement specialist position at Meridian represented a strategic choice to continue building specialized expertise in manufacturing operations, while maintaining the financial independence and professional autonomy that had become central to my identity. Rather than viewing this opportunity as a destination, I recognized it as another step in a longer journey toward demonstrating the superior value of capability-based achievement compared to privilege-based advancement. Monday morning arrived, with my decision firmly made and a renewed sense of purpose about the path I was creating through systematic effort and strategic thinking. The foundation my father had shattered by redirecting my college fund had been replaced by something far more durable and valuable: the knowledge that I could create opportunities and overcome challenges through my own capabilities, rather than depending on external support or advantages. The observer phase of my journey was concluding, but the insights and methodologies I had developed during these months would become the tools for building achievements that would ultimately surpass anything that family financial support could have provided. The real transformation was just beginning. The promotion to Process Improvement Specialist at Meridian Industrial Solutions marked the beginning of the most intensive educational period of my professional development. This role provided unprecedented access to every aspect of manufacturing operations, from strategic planning discussions and executive meetings to detailed technical procedures on the production floor. My new responsibilities included analyzing organizational effectiveness across all departments, identifying systemic improvement opportunities, and implementing solutions that would enhance both operational efficiency and competitive positioning. Patricia Williams had structured this position to function as a comprehensive learning laboratory where I could develop advanced analytical capabilities while contributing directly to company strategic objectives. The role required me to understand complex manufacturing processes from multiple perspectives, develop expertise in change management and organizational development, and build relationships with personnel at every level of the corporate hierarchy. This multifaceted approach to professional development would provide me with knowledge and experience that typically required years of conventional career advancement to acquire. My first major assignment as process improvement specialist involved conducting a comprehensive operational assessment of Meridian's entire manufacturing infrastructure. This project required me to analyze production workflows, equipment utilization patterns, material management systems, quality control procedures, and resource allocation methodologies across all product lines and client accounts. The assessment would serve as the foundation for developing a strategic improvement plan that could enhance operational performance while reducing costs and improving client satisfaction. The scope of this assignment was both exciting and intimidating. I would be evaluating systems and procedures that had been developed by experienced professionals over many years, identifying inefficiencies that had persisted despite previous improvement efforts, and proposing modifications that would need to be accepted and implemented by personnel who had considerably more industry experience than I possessed. Success would require combining analytical rigor with diplomatic communication, skills, and practical understanding of organizational change dynamics. I approached this challenge using the systematic methodology I had developed during my earlier work at Meridian, but expanded to accommodate the increased complexity and strategic importance of this assignment. Rather than beginning with preconceived assumptions about what improvements were needed, I started by developing a comprehensive understanding of how current systems had evolved and why existing procedures had been implemented in their present form. This historical analysis revealed important insights about the relationship between organizational development and operational effectiveness. Many current procedures had been established in response to specific problems or client requirements that were no longer relevant, but the procedures had remained in place because no systematic review process existed to evaluate their continued necessity. Other processes had been modified repeatedly over time through incremental adjustments that had gradually compromised their original efficiency without anyone recognizing the cumulative impact of these changes. The equipment utilization analysis uncovered significant opportunities for improving productivity through better coordination of maintenance schedules and production planning. Meridian's manufacturing equipment was sophisticated and well-maintained, but the scheduling systems treated each machine as an independent resource rather than recognizing the interdependencies that existed between different production stages. This approach resulted in situations where downstream equipment remained idle while upstream processes completed their operations, creating capacity constraints that were not actually necessary given the available resources. Material management represented another area where systematic analysis revealed improvement opportunities that had not been apparent from individual departmental perspectives. The procurement department optimized their procedures for minimizing material costs and ensuring adequate inventory levels, while the production scheduling department focused on meeting delivery commitments and maximizing equipment utilization. However, the integration between these functions was not optimized, resulting in situations where cost-effective procurement decisions created production scheduling challenges, or where production priorities required expensive, expedited material orders. Quality control procedures were comprehensive and effective for ensuring that finished products met client specifications, but the data generated through these processes was underutilized for proactive improvement purposes. Statistical process control information could provide early warning indicators of equipment maintenance requirements, supplier quality issues, or procedural inconsistencies that could be addressed before they resulted in defective products or production delays. However, This analytical capability was not being systematically exploited to prevent problems rather than simply identifying them after they occurred. The client services analysis revealed opportunities for improving communication and coordination that could enhance both customer satisfaction and operational efficiency. Current procedures focused on responding to client inquiries and managing order processing, but there was limited proactive communication about production capabilities, capacity constraints, or alternative approaches that might better serve client requirements while optimizing manufacturing operations. This reactive approach sometimes resulted in commitments that created operational challenges or missed opportunities to suggest modifications that would benefit both the client and Meridian. As I compiled this comprehensive operational assessment, I began developing what would become my signature approach to organizational improvement. Rather than focusing on individual problems that could be solved through isolated modifications, I concentrated on identifying systemic inefficiencies that could be addressed through coordinated changes that would produce benefits across multiple operational areas simultaneously. This systems-oriented approach required understanding the complex relationships between different organizational functions and designing improvement initiatives that would enhance overall effectiveness rather than optimizing individual components at the expense of integrated performance. The methodology was more sophisticated than traditional problem-solving approaches, but it also promised more substantial and sustainable results. The presentation of my operational assessment findings to Meridian's senior management team represented a critical milestone in my professional development. The audience included Patricia Williams, James Rodriguez, and several other department heads, along with Michael Stevens, the company president whom I had not previously met. The presentation would need to communicate complex analytical findings in a clear and compelling manner while demonstrating the strategic value of the improvement opportunities I had identified. I structured the presentation to begin with an overview of current operational performance metrics, followed by analysis of systemic inefficiencies that were constraining further improvement, and concluding with specific recommendations for coordinated changes that would address multiple improvement opportunities simultaneously. The recommendations included projected implementation timelines, resource requirements, and quantitative estimates of performance improvements and cost savings that could be achieved through systematic execution of the proposed changes. The management team's response exceeded my expectations in terms of both their understanding of the analytical approach I had employed and their enthusiasm for implementing the recommended improvements. Michael Stevens was particularly impressed with the comprehensive nature of the assessment and the strategic perspective I had brought to identifying opportunities that transcended individual departmental boundaries. Alexandra, this analysis represents exactly the kind of systems thinking we need to maintain our competitive position in an increasingly challenging market environment, he commented during the discussion that followed my presentation. Your recommendations address not just immediate operational issues, but also the underlying organizational capabilities that will determine our long-term success. The approval to proceed with implementing my improvement recommendations provided an opportunity to develop practical experience in change management and project coordination while testing the effectiveness of my analytical methods under real-world conditions. The implementation process would require coordinating modifications across multiple departments, managing the timeline and resource allocation for various improvement initiatives, and monitoring results to ensure that projected benefits were actually achieved. This responsibility represented a significant expansion of my role within the organization and provided exposure to executive-level decision-making processes that would enhance my understanding of strategic management principles. I would be working directly with senior personnel to coordinate implementation activities while maintaining oversight of multiple concurrent projects that would collectively transform Meridian's operational effectiveness. The first phase of implementation focused on equipment utilization improvements that could be achieved through better coordination of maintenance scheduling and production planning. This initiative required developing new communication protocols between the maintenance department and production scheduling, along with modified procedures for evaluating equipment availability and optimizing workflow sequences. The changes were relatively straightforward to implement, but they required careful coordination to ensure that new procedures were understood and consistently followed by personnel in both departments. The results of this initial implementation phase provided immediate validation of my analytical approach and built credibility for the more complex improvement initiatives that would follow. Equipment utilization rates improved by approximately 18% within the first month of implementation, while maintenance efficiency increased due to better coordination of preventive maintenance activities with production schedules. These improvements generated measurable cost savings and increased production capacity, without requiring additional equipment investments or personnel increases. The success of the equipment utilization project created momentum for implementing the more sophisticated improvements related to material management integration and proactive quality control procedures. These initiatives required more extensive coordination between departments and involved modifications to existing information systems and communication protocols. However, the demonstrated effectiveness of the initial implementation had established confidence in my methodology and generated support from department heads who had initially been skeptical about the feasibility of the proposed changes. The material management integration project proved to be particularly challenging because it required changing established procedures in both procurement and production scheduling departments, while ensuring that the modifications would actually improve overall performance, rather than simply shifting problems from one area to another. Success required developing new metrics for evaluating the integrated effectiveness of these functions and creating communication mechanisms that would enable real-time coordination of procurement decisions and production priorities. This project provided valuable experience in managing organizational change that involved multiple stakeholders with different priorities and established procedures. I learned to balance the analytical requirements of system optimization with the practical constraints of working within existing organizational structures and personnel capabilities. The skills I developed in stakeholder management and change communication would prove essential for the more ambitious projects that lay ahead. The Quality Control Enhancement Initiative introduced proactive analytical procedures that utilize statistical process control data to predict and prevent problems, rather than simply identifying them after they occurred. This approach required training quality control personnel in advanced analytical methods, while developing new communication protocols for sharing predictive insights with production supervisors and maintenance personnel. The initiative represented a fundamental shift from reactive problem-solving to proactive problem prevention. Implementation of this enhancement required several months of careful coordination and training, but the results demonstrated the substantial value of systematic analytical approaches to quality management. Defect rates declined by more than 40% over the 6-month implementation period, while equipment downtime decreased due to predictive maintenance activities that prevented failures before they disrupted production operations. These improvements generated significant cost savings while enhancing client satisfaction through more consistent product quality and delivery performance. The comprehensive success of these improvement initiatives established my reputation within Meridian as someone who could analyze complex organizational challenges and develop practical solutions that delivered measurable results. More importantly, the experience provided me with advanced capabilities in systems analysis, change management, and project coordination that would be valuable regardless of my future career direction within the manufacturing industry. My academic progress continued to benefit from the practical experience I was gaining through my work at Meridian. The advanced courses I was taking in operations research and supply chain management provided theoretical frameworks that enhanced my understanding of the analytical methods I was applying in real-world situations. My professors consistently noted the sophisticated examples I could provide from actual workplace experience, and several encouraged me to consider pursuing graduate education in operations management or industrial engineering. However, my immediate Focus remained on maximizing the learning opportunities available through my current position while building the professional network and industry knowledge that would support my long-term career objectives. The success I was achieving at Meridian was providing validation of my belief that capability-based advancement could produce superior results compared to privilege-based career development. But I recognized that this was still early in a longer journey toward demonstrating the full extent of my potential. The contrast between my professional trajectory and my sister Megan's college experience was becoming increasingly apparent, though our parents had not yet recognized the significance of this divergence. Megan was completing her sophomore year at Northwestern University with adequate but unremarkable academic performance and limited involvement in activities that would enhance her professional development or career prospects. Her approach to college appeared focused on social experiences rather than building capabilities that would translate to career success after graduation. Meanwhile, my combination of practical experience and targeted education was providing me with knowledge and skills that would be directly applicable to senior management positions in manufacturing organizations. I understood operational challenges from both theoretical and practical perspectives, had demonstrated ability to analyze complex problems and implement effective solutions, and had developed relationships with experienced professionals who could provide mentorship and career advancement opportunities. During my annual performance review meeting with Patricia Williams, she expressed interest in discussing my long-term career objectives and potential advancement opportunities within Meridian's organizational structure. The company was experiencing steady growth and was considering expansion into new market segments that would require additional management personnel with strong analytical capabilities and proven track records of operational improvement. Alexandra, your contributions to our operational effectiveness have been exceptional, and we view you as a key component of our strategic planning for future growth, Patricia explained during our performance review discussion. We would like to explore opportunities for expanding your responsibilities and providing you with additional exposure to senior management decision-making processes. The advancement opportunities she described included potential promotion to operations manager with responsibility for coordinating all production-related functions, or alternatively, creation of a strategic analysis manager position that would focus on evaluating new business opportunities and competitive positioning strategies. Both options would represent significant increases in compensation and responsibility while providing continued professional development in areas that aligned with my career interests and demonstrated capabilities. However, I was also beginning to recognize that my ultimate objectives might extend beyond what could be achieved within Meridian's organizational structure, regardless of how supportive they had been of my professional development. The analytical skills and industry knowledge I was acquiring were building towards something larger than a successful career as a manufacturing operations manager, though I had not yet articulated precisely what that larger objective might entail. The foundation that had been shattered when my father redirected my college fund to my sister was being replaced by capabilities and experiences that were far more valuable than financial security or family support could have provided. The necessity of creating my own path had forced me to develop resourcefulness, strategic thinking, and professional competencies that would serve as the platform for achievements that privilege alone could never have made possible. As I concluded my first year as process improvement specialist at Meridian Industrial Solutions, I reflected on how dramatically my circumstances had changed since that devastating conversation at the kitchen table. What had initially appeared to be a catastrophic setback had transformed into an opportunity to build capabilities and experience that were positioning me for career advancement that would ultimately demonstrate the superior value of merit-based achievement compared to advantage-based success. The learning laboratory phase of my journey was nearing completion, but the knowledge and skills I had developed were becoming the tools for building something far more ambitious than I had initially envisioned. The real transformation was accelerating, and the foundation for extraordinary achievement was solidifying through systematic effort and strategic execution. The emergency call from Patricia Williams reached me at 6:15 on a Monday morning in November. her voice carrying an urgency that immediately conveyed the severity of the situation facing Meridian Industrial Solutions. A catastrophic equipment failure at our primary production facility had occurred during the weekend, compromising our ability to fulfill critical manufacturing commitments for 3 major client accounts that represented nearly 40% of our annual revenue. The crisis threatened not only our immediate operational capacity, but also our long-term relationships with key customers who depended on our reliability for their own production schedules. "Alexandra, we need you here immediately," Patricia explained during the brief phone conversation. The main CNC machining center suffered a complete hydraulic system failure that has rendered it inoperable for an indefinite period. We have orders worth over $2 million that are scheduled for delivery within the next 3 weeks, and our backup equipment cannot handle the precision requirements for these components. This is the most serious operational crisis we have faced in the company's history. As I drove toward the Meridian facility, I understood that this situation would represent the ultimate test of the analytical capabilities and strategic thinking skills I had developed over the previous 18 months. The crisis required not only immediate problem-solving to address the equipment failure, but also comprehensive coordination of alternative production strategies that could minimize client impact while preserving our competitive position in the CASE marketplace. Success would require integrating technical analysis, resource management, vendor coordination, and client communication into a coherent response strategy that could be executed under extreme time pressure. Upon arriving at the facility, I found the senior management team assembled in the main conference room, surrounded by technical manuals, vendor contact information, and preliminary damage assessments that painted a discouraging picture of our immediate options. The hydraulic system failure had caused extensive damage to precision components that would require specialized replacement parts, with lead times extending well beyond our client delivery commitments. Traditional repair approaches would take several weeks to implement, making it impossible to meet our contractual obligations through conventional solutions. Michael Stevens, the company president, was coordinating communication with affected clients while attempting to identify alternative manufacturing options that might enable us to fulfill at least portions of our outstanding commitments. His conversations with client representatives had revealed the serious consequences that delivery delays would create for their own operations, including potential production shutdowns and significant financial penalties that could damage relationships we had spent years developing. James Rodriguez was working with our maintenance team and external service providers to evaluate repair options and timeline estimates for restoring the damaged equipment to operational status. The preliminary assessments indicated that complete restoration would require approximately 6 weeks, assuming that specialized replacement components could be procured without additional delays. This timeline was completely incompatible with our client delivery requirements and would likely result in contract cancellations that could threaten the company's financial stability. The equipment failure had exposed a critical vulnerability in our operational infrastructure that had not been adequately addressed through our previous improvement initiatives. Our dependence on a single piece of specialized equipment for high-precision manufacturing had created a single point of failure that could compromise our ability to serve major client accounts. This situation highlighted the importance of developing comprehensive risk management strategies that could prevent operational disruptions or provide effective contingency responses when critical systems failed. As I reviewed the technical specifications for the affected orders and analyzed the capabilities of our remaining operational equipment, I began developing a multifaceted response strategy that could address both immediate production requirements and long-term risk management objectives. The approach would require coordinating internal resources with external manufacturing partnerships, while implementing temporary process modifications that could maintain quality standards despite the equipment limitations we faced. My analysis identified 3 categories of affected orders that would require different response strategies based on their technical specifications, delivery deadlines, and client flexibility regarding alternative approaches. The first category included components with relatively standard precision requirements that could potentially be manufactured using our existing backup equipment with minor process modifications. The second category consisted of moderately complex components that would require outsourcing to partner manufacturers with comparable capabilities. The third category involved highly specialized components that would require either equipment rental or temporary partnerships with competitors who possessed the necessary technical capabilities. The development of this categorized response strategy required detailed technical analysis of each affected order, evaluation of alternative manufacturing methods, and assessment of vendor capabilities that could provide short-term production support. I worked throughout Monday coordinating with our engineering team to identify feasible process modifications, contacting potential manufacturing partners to assess their availability and capabilities, and developing timeline estimates for various alternative production scenarios. The most challenging aspect of this analysis involved balancing quality requirements with resource constraints and delivery deadlines. Many of the alternative manufacturing approaches would require additional quality control procedures or specialized inspection processes to ensure that finished components met client specifications. These additional requirements would impact both production timelines and cost structures, requiring careful evaluation of trade-offs between delivery performance and financial impact. By Tuesday morning, I had developed a comprehensive contingency plan that addressed each category of affected orders through coordinated internal and external resources. The plan included detailed implementation timelines, quality assurance protocols, and cost projections that would enable management to make informed decisions about how to proceed with each client account. The analysis demonstrated that while we could not completely eliminate the impact of the equipment failure, we could minimize client disruption while preserving most of our revenue commitments through strategic coordination of alternative manufacturing resources. The presentation of my contingency plan to the senior management team generated immediate interest and approval for proceeding with the proposed approach. Michael Stevens was particularly impressed with the comprehensive nature of the analysis and the practical feasibility of the recommended actions. The plan provided a framework for managing the crisis that could preserve client relationships while maintaining operational continuity during the equipment restoration period. Alexandra, this analysis represents exactly the kind of strategic thinking we need during crisis situations, Michael commented after reviewing the detailed implementation recommendations. Your ability to coordinate complex technical requirements with practical resource constraints demonstrates exceptional problem-solving capabilities that will be essential for our recovery from this situation. The implementation of the contingency plan required intensive coordination between multiple departments and external partners over the following 3 weeks. I assumed responsibility for managing this coordination process, ensuring that quality standards were maintained despite the unusual manufacturing arrangements, and communicating progress updates to affected clients. This experience provided valuable exposure to crisis management principles and high-stakes project coordination that would enhance my professional capabilities regardless of future career directions. The first category of orders, involving components that could be manufactured using our backup equipment, required modifications to existing production processes that would accommodate the different technical specifications of the alternative machinery. Working with our engineering team, I developed new process parameters and quality control procedures that would ensure consistent results despite the equipment differences. The implementation of these modifications required training production personnel in new procedures while maintaining strict adherence to client specifications. The results of this internal production modification exceeded our expectations in terms of both quality consistency and production efficiency. The modified processes actually provided some advantages over our standard procedures, including reduced setup times and improved material utilization that generated cost savings, even while addressing the crisis situation. These improvements would be incorporated into our standard operations after the primary equipment was restored, demonstrating how crisis situations could generate innovation that enhanced long-term operational effectiveness. The second category of orders required coordinating with external manufacturing partners who possessed comparable precision machining capabilities. I identified 3 potential partners through industry networking and conducted detailed assessments of their technical capabilities, quality systems, and capacity availability. The selection process required evaluating not only their ability to meet immediate production requirements, but also their reliability and quality standards that would preserve our client relationships. The partnership negotiations involved complex discussions about technical specifications, quality requirements, delivery schedules, and cost structures that would govern the temporary manufacturing arrangements. I coordinated these negotiations while ensuring that all parties understood the critical importance of maintaining quality standards and delivery commitments that would preserve Meridian's reputation with affected clients. The successful conclusion of these partnerships required diplomatic communication skills and thorough understanding of manufacturing technical requirements. The implementation of external manufacturing partnerships provided valuable experience in vendor management and quality assurance procedures that extended beyond our internal operations. I developed new protocols for coordinating production schedules, monitoring quality performance, and managing communication between our clients and external manufacturing partners. These capabilities would prove valuable for future strategics. Initiatives involving expanded manufacturing capacity or specialized technical capabilities. The third category of orders, involving highly specialized components with unique precision requirements, presented the most complex challenges and required the most innovative solutions. The technical specifications for these components exceeded the capabilities of most manufacturing partners and would require either specialized equipment rental or temporary partnerships with direct competitors who possessed the necessary technical resources. This situation required careful evaluation of competitive implications and strategic risks associated with sharing proprietary information with potential competitors. Working with Michael Stevens and our legal team, I developed confidentiality agreements and partnership frameworks that would enable cooperation with competitors while protecting our proprietary technical information and client relationships. These arrangements required sophisticated negotiation skills and thorough understanding of competitive dynamics within the manufacturing industry. The successful conclusion of these agreements demonstrated the value of strategic thinking and professional relationship management during crisis situations. The coordination of competitor partnerships proved to be the most challenging aspect of the crisis response, requiring careful balance between cooperation and competition that would preserve both immediate production requirements and long-term strategic positioning. I learned valuable lessons about industry dynamics and strategic relationships that would influence my understanding of competitive business environments and partnership development throughout my career. The overall implementation of the crisis response strategy required 3 weeks of intensive coordination and project management that tested every aspect of my professional capabilities. The experience provided exposure to senior-level decision-making, strategic planning, vendor management, client communication, and crisis leadership that would typically require years of conventional career advancement to acquire. The successful resolution of this crisis would establish my reputation as someone who could manage complex challenges under pressure while maintaining strategic perspective and operational effectiveness. The final results of our crisis response exceeded all expectations in terms of client satisfaction, delivery performance, and cost management. We successfully fulfilled 96% of our delivery commitments within the original timeline, while maintaining quality standards that preserved client relationships and competitive positioning. The cost impact of the alternative manufacturing arrangements was approximately 12% higher than standard production costs, but this premium was significantly lower than the financial penalties that would have resulted from delivery failures or contract cancellations. More importantly, the crisis response had generated several innovations and process improvements that would enhance our operational capabilities even after the primary equipment was restored to service. The modified production processes for backup equipment had proven more efficient than our standard procedures. The external manufacturing partnerships had created new strategic options for capacity expansion, and the competitor cooperation frameworks had established precedents for future industry collaboration during crisis situations. The successful resolution of this operational crisis established my credibility as someone who could manage complex strategic challenges while maintaining focus on both immediate requirements and long-term organizational objectives. Michael Stevens and the senior management team recognized that my contribution had been essential for preserving client relationships and competitive positioning during the most serious operational disruption in company history. During the post-crisis evaluation meeting, Michael Stevens formally acknowledged the strategic value of my crisis management contribution and expressed interest in expanding my responsibilities to include broader strategic planning and risk management functions. The crisis had demonstrated that my analytical capabilities and systematic approach to problem-solving could provide significant value during both routine operations and extraordinary circumstances. Alexandra, your performance during this crisis has demonstrated leadership capabilities that extend far beyond your current role, Michael explained during our individual meeting. We believe you have the potential to assume senior management responsibilities that would utilize your strategic thinking abilities while contributing to our long-term competitive positioning and growth objectives. This recognition represented a significant milestone in my professional development and validation of the strategic approach I had pursued since my father's decision to redirect my college fund had forced me to create my own path toward career success. The crisis had provided an opportunity to demonstrate capabilities that would typically require much longer to develop through conventional career advancement, accelerating my trajectory toward senior management positions within the manufacturing industry. However, the crisis had also provided insights into broader industry dynamics and competitive challenges that were shaping my understanding of long-term career objectives beyond what could be achieved within Meridian's organizational structure. The experience had revealed opportunities for creating value through strategic analysis and organizational leadership that extended beyond individual company operations to encompass industry-wide challenges and market development initiatives. The foundation that had been destroyed by my father's financial decision was being replaced by capabilities and experiences that positioned me for achievements that would ultimately demonstrate the superior value of merit-based success compared to privilege-based advancement. The crisis catalyst had accelerated my development while providing validation that strategic thinking and systematic execution could produce extraordinary results when applied to complex organizational challenges. As I reflected on this transformative experience, I understood that the crisis had not only tested my existing capabilities, but had also revealed potential for contributions that extended far beyond what I had previously envisioned for my career trajectory. The real transformation was accelerating, and the foundation for exceptional achievement was becoming increasingly solid through demonstrated performance under pressure. The transformation in how Meridian Industrial Solutions viewed my potential became evident during the executive strategy meeting held 3 weeks after our successful crisis resolution. Michael Stevens had convened the senior management team to evaluate our operational performance and discuss strategic planning initiatives for the upcoming fiscal year. For the first time in my tenure at the company, I was invited to participate as a full contributor rather than simply providing administrative support or technical analysis for decisions made by others. The meeting agenda included comprehensive review of our crisis response effectiveness, evaluation of process improvements that had emerged from the emergency manufacturing arrangements, and assessment of strategic opportunities that could strengthen our competitive positioning within the precision manufacturing marketplace. My role in this discussion extended beyond presenting analytical findings to participating directly in strategic decision-making processes that would determine the company's future direction and growth trajectory. Michael Stevens opened the meeting by acknowledging the exceptional performance that had enabled us to preserve client relationships and maintain operational continuity during the most significant equipment failure in company History. His comments specifically recognized the strategic analysis and coordination efforts that had transformed a potentially catastrophic situation into an opportunity for operational innovation and competitive strengthening. The recognition represented a fundamental shift in how senior management perceived my contributions to organizational effectiveness and strategic planning capabilities. The crisis response demonstrated that we possess analytical and coordination capabilities that extend far beyond what our current organizational structure recognizes or utilizes effectively, Michael explained to the assembled management team. Alexandra's strategic approach to crisis management has revealed opportunities for enhancing our competitive positioning through systematic analysis and proactive planning that we should integrate into our standard operational procedures. The discussion that followed focused on institutionalizing the crisis management methodologies I had developed into comprehensive risk management and strategic planning systems that would strengthen our operational resilience while identifying opportunities for continuous improvement. This approach represented a significant evolution from reactive problem-solving to proactive capability development that would position Meridian for sustained competitive advantage in an increasingly challenging marketplace. Patricia Williams presented a detailed analysis of the process innovations that had emerged from our crisis response, demonstrating how alternative manufacturing arrangements had generated efficiency improvements and cost reductions that exceeded our standard operational performance. The modified production processes for backup equipment had proven more effective than our original procedures, while external manufacturing partnerships had provided access to specialized capabilities that could enhance our service offerings to existing clients. The external partnerships developed during the crisis had also revealed opportunities for strategic collaboration that could expand our market reach and technical capabilities without requiring substantial capital investments in new equipment or facility expansion. These partnerships represented potential foundations for long-term strategic alliances that could accelerate our growth while providing access to specialized markets and technical expertise that would differentiate us from regional competitors. James Rodriguez contributed analysis of equipment utilization and maintenance optimization strategies that had been validated during the crisis response period. The necessity of maximizing performance from our backup equipment had led to scheduling and maintenance innovations that improved overall equipment effectiveness and reduced operational costs. These improvements could be scaled across our entire manufacturing infrastructure to generate substantial efficiency gains and capacity expansion without additional equipment investments. The strategic planning discussion revealed consensus among senior management that our crisis response had demonstrated organizational capabilities that were not being fully utilized within our current operational framework. The analytical methodologies, coordination systems, and strategic thinking approaches that had enabled successful crisis management represented assets that could provide sustained competitive advantages if properly integrated into our standard business operations. Michael Stevens proposed creating a strategic operations director position that would institutionalize the analytical and coordination capabilities demonstrated during the crisis, while providing leadership for continuous improvement initiatives across all operational areas. This position would report directly to senior management and would have authority for implementing strategic initiatives that enhanced competitive positioning and operational effectiveness. The Strategic Operations Director role represented exactly the type of advancement opportunity I had been working toward through my systematic approach to professional development and capability building. The position would provide direct involvement in strategic decision-making while utilizing the analytical skills and industry knowledge I had developed through 18 months of intensive learning and practical application at Meridian Industrial Solutions. However, the opportunity also required careful consideration of how accepting this promotion would align with my long-term career objectives and the underlying commitment to demonstrating superior achievement through capability-based advancement rather than privilege-based career development. The success I was achieving at Meridian validated my strategic approach, but I needed to ensure that my decisions continued to build toward objectives that extended beyond individual career advancement to encompass broader industry impact and organizational transformation. During my individual meeting with Michael Stevens to discuss the Strategic Operations Director opportunity, he provided additional details about the scope of responsibilities and strategic importance of this position within Meridian's organizational development plans. The role would involve not only internal operational optimization, but also market analysis, competitive positioning assessment, and strategic partnership development that could expand our capabilities and market presence. Alexandra, your analytical approach and strategic thinking capabilities represent exactly the kind of leadership we need to navigate the competitive challenges facing manufacturing companies in the current market environment, Michael explained during our discussion. This position would provide you with comprehensive exposure to senior management decision-making, while utilizing your demonstrated abilities to generate measurable improvements in operational performance and competitive positioning. The Strategic Operations Director position would include responsibility for developing and implementing comprehensive strategic plans that integrated operational efficiency, market development, client relationship management, and competitive analysis into coordinated initiatives that would strengthen Meridian's long-term viability and growth potential. The role would require sophisticated understanding of industry dynamics, advanced analytical capabilities, and proven ability to coordinate complex projects across multiple organizational functions. The compensation and benefits associated with this promotion represented a substantial increase over my current position, reflecting the strategic importance of the role and the demonstrated value of my contributions to organizational effectiveness. More significantly, the position would provide access to senior management networks and industry relationships that could accelerate my professional development while expanding my understanding of strategic business management at the executive level. The decision to accept the Strategic Operations Director position required comprehensive evaluation of how this opportunity would contribute to my long-term career objectives while maintaining the independence and strategic thinking approach that had enabled my success at Meridian. The role represented validation of the capabilities I had developed through systematic effort and practical application, but it also needed to serve as a foundation for continued growth toward objectives that might extend beyond what could be achieved within a single organization. After thorough analysis of the opportunity and its alignment with my strategic career development plan, I accepted the Strategic Operations Director position with enthusiasm and commitment to demonstrating exceptional performance that would justify the confidence senior management had expressed in my capabilities. The promotion represented another step in the journey toward proving that merit-based achievement could produce superior results compared to privilege-based career advancement. The transition to Strategic Operations Director required several weeks of intensive preparation and coordination with various department heads to establish the operational framework and communication protocols that would enable effective execution of my expanded responsibilities. The role involved direct oversight of process improvement initiatives, strategic analysis of market opportunities, and coordination of cross-functional projects that would enhance overall organizational effectiveness. My first major initiative as Strategic Operations Director involved developing a comprehensive competitive analysis that would identify market positioning opportunities and strategic threats that could influence Meridian's business development priorities. This analysis required extensive research into industry trends, competitor capabilities, client preference evolution, and technological developments that were reshaping the precision manufacturing marketplace. The competitive analysis revealed several significant opportunities for market expansion and service differentiation that had not been fully recognized or exploited within our current strategic planning processes. Advanced manufacturing technologies were creating opportunities for precision component applications in emerging industries, such as renewable energy systems, medical device manufacturing, and aerospace component production that could provide substantial revenue growth potential. Client preference trends indicated increasing demand for integrated manufacturing services that combined precision machining with assembly, testing, and quality certification capabilities that could provide Comprehensive solutions for complex component requirements. This trend represented an opportunity for service expansion that would differentiate Meridian from competitors who focused exclusively on individual manufacturing processes without providing integrated project management capabilities. Technological. Developments in automated manufacturing and quality control systems were creating opportunities for efficiency improvements and capacity expansion that could enhance our competitive positioning while reducing operational costs. Strategic investments in advanced equipment and control systems could provide capabilities that would enable us to serve larger clients and more complex projects that were currently beyond our technical or capacity limitations. The strategic analysis also identified potential threats from larger manufacturing companies that were expanding into regional markets through acquisition strategies that could intensify competitive pressure on companies like Meridian. These threats required proactive response strategies that would strengthen our competitive positioning while identifying potential partnership or acquisition opportunities that could enhance our capabilities and market presence. The presentation of my competitive analysis and strategic recommendations to the senior management team generated considerable discussion and enthusiasm for implementing several of the proposed initiatives. Michael Stevens was particularly interested in the market expansion opportunities and service differentiation strategies that could accelerate revenue growth while strengthening client relationships through enhanced value proposition delivery. This analysis provides exactly the kind of strategic perspective we need to position ourselves for sustained growth in an increasingly competitive market environment, Michael commented during the presentation discussion. Your recommendations address both immediate opportunities and long-term strategic positioning requirements that will determine our success over the next several years. The approval to proceed with implementing key elements of my strategic recommendations provided an opportunity to demonstrate leadership capabilities in strategic planning execution while building the organizational capabilities that would support sustained growth and competitive advantage. The implementation process would require coordinating multiple initiatives simultaneously while maintaining focus on operational effectiveness and client satisfaction during the transition period. The Market Expansion Initiative focused on developing capabilities and client relationships within the renewable energy systems manufacturing sector, which represented substantial growth potential for precision component suppliers with appropriate technical capabilities and quality certifications. This expansion required understanding specialized technical requirements, regulatory compliance standards, and client relationship protocols that differed significantly from our traditional automotive and aerospace markets. The service differentiation strategy involved expanding our capabilities to include assembly, testing, and project management services that would enable us to provide comprehensive solutions for complex manufacturing projects. This expansion required additional equipment investments, personnel training, and quality system enhancements that would enable us to compete effectively for larger projects with higher value content per client relationship. The Technology Enhancement Initiative included strategic investments in advanced manufacturing equipment and quality control systems that would increase our precision capabilities, production capacity, and efficiency performance. These investments required careful evaluation of equipment options, financing alternatives, and implementation timelines that would maximize return on investment while minimizing operational disruption during the installation and training period. The coordination of these multiple strategic initiatives required sophisticated project management capabilities and extensive communication with department heads, equipment vendors, training providers, and potential clients who would be affected by our expanded capabilities. The experience provided valuable exposure to strategic implementation challenges while building leadership skills that would be essential for continued advancement within the manufacturing industry. The results of these strategic initiatives exceeded our projected performance improvements in terms of both revenue growth and operational efficiency enhancement. The renewable energy market expansion generated substantial new client relationships and project opportunities that increased our annual revenue by approximately 35% within the first year of implementation. The service differentiation strategy enabled us to secure several large integrated manufacturing contracts that provided higher profit margins and more stable long-term revenue commitments. The technology investments produced efficiency improvements and capacity expansion that enhanced our ability to serve existing clients while providing the technical capabilities necessary for pursuing more complex and profitable projects. The advanced quality control systems reduced defect rates and inspection time requirements while providing documentation capabilities that satisfied the most demanding client quality assurance requirements. The comprehensive success of these strategic initiatives established my reputation within the manufacturing industry as someone who could analyze market opportunities and implement strategic plans that delivered measurable business results. Industry publications featured articles about Meridian's strategic transformation and competitive positioning improvements, with several specifically recognizing the analytical approach and implementation methodology that had enabled our success. Professional recognition within the industry led to invitations for speaking engagements at manufacturing conferences and strategic planning seminars, where I could share insights about analytical methods and strategic implementation approaches that other companies might adapt for their own competitive positioning initiatives. These opportunities provided valuable exposure to industry leaders and potential networking relationships that could influence future career development opportunities. The speaking engagements also revealed the broader applicability of the analytical methodologies and strategic thinking approaches I had developed through my experience at Meridian. Manufacturing companies across various industries were facing similar competitive challenges and strategic planning requirements that could benefit from systematic analysis and coordinated implementation approaches that integrated operational effectiveness with market positioning strategies. During my second year as Strategic Operations Director, I began receiving inquiries from executive recruiters and industry leaders about potential advancement opportunities with larger manufacturing companies and strategic consulting organizations that specialized in operational transformation and competitive positioning analysis. These inquiries represented validation of the professional reputation I had developed through demonstrated performance and strategic thinking capabilities. However, the recognition and advancement opportunities also prompted reflection about long-term career objectives that might extend beyond individual professional success to encompass broader industry impact and organizational transformation. The analytical capabilities and strategic implementation experience I had developed represented assets that could provide value across multiple organizational contexts and industry applications. The foundation that had been shattered when my father redirected my college fund was being replaced by professional capabilities and industry recognition that positioned me for achievements far beyond what family financial support could have enabled. The systematic approach to capability development and strategic career planning had produced results that validated my belief in merit-based advancement over privilege-based career development. As I evaluated potential advancement opportunities and strategic career alternatives, I understood that the recognition revolution at Meridian represented just one phase in a longer journey toward demonstrating the extraordinary potential that emerges when necessity forces individuals to develop capabilities through systematic effort rather than depending on external advantages or support systems. The real transformation was accelerating, and the foundation for exceptional achievement was becoming increasingly solid through demonstrated performance and strategic thinking application. The invitation to address the annual Manufacturing Excellence conference represented a watershed moment in my professional development, providing a platform to share the strategic methodologies and analytical frameworks that had transformed Meridian Industrial Solutions from a regional manufacturer into a recognized industry leader in operational innovation and competitive positioning. The conference audience included senior executives from manufacturing companies across North America, along with industry analysts, technology providers, and strategic consultants who influenced operational improvement initiatives throughout the manufacturing sector. My presentation, titled Systems Integration Approach to Manufacturing Transformation, would examine how comprehensive analytical methods could identify improvement opportunities that transcended individual operational functions to create sustainable competitive advantages through coordinated strategic implementation. The opportunity represented validation of the professional expertise I had developed, while providing exposure to industry leaders who could influence future career advancement and strategic consulting opportunities. The preparation for this presentation required distilling 3 years of practical experience and analytical development into strategic principles that could be understood and applied by manufacturing executives facing similar competitive challenges across diverse industry segments. The framework needed to demonstrate universal applicability while maintaining the sophisticated analytical rigor that had enabled extraordinary results at Meridian Industrial Solutions. The core methodology I would present focused on what I termed integrated systems optimization, which approached manufacturing improvement through comprehensive analysis of organizational functions rather than isolated problem-solving initiatives. This approach required understanding complex relationships between operational activities, identifying systemic inefficiencies that constrained overall performance, and designing coordinated improvement strategies that enhanced multiple operational areas simultaneously while strengthening competitive positioning. The presentation structure would demonstrate this methodology through detailed case studies from Meridian's transformation, including quantitative results that validated the effectiveness of systematic analytical approaches compared to conventional improvement strategies. The audience would see specific examples of how integrated analysis could identify improvement opportunities that generated substantial operational benefits while requiring minimal additional resource investments or organizational disruption. The manufacturing conference presentation generated considerable interest from industry executives who recognized the potential applicability of these methodologies to their own organizational challenges. The discussion period following my presentation extended well beyond the scheduled timeframe, as attendees requested additional details about implementation approaches, resource requirements, and adaptation strategies that could enable successful application within different organizational contexts and industry environments. Several conference attendees approached me during networking sessions to discuss potential consulting arrangements that could provide their organizations with access to the analytical methods and strategic implementation expertise demonstrated through Meridian's transformation. These inquiries represented opportunities for expanding my professional impact beyond individual organizational advancement to encompass broader industry influence through strategic consulting and organizational development services. The most significant opportunity emerged from conversations with Margaret Thompson, Chief Executive Officer of Consolidated Manufacturing Group, a holding company that owned 12 manufacturing operations across various industrial sectors. Margaret had attended my presentation and was impressed with the systematic approach to organizational transformation that had produced measurable improvements in operational effectiveness, competitive positioning, and financial performance at Meridian Industrial Solutions. Alexandra, your analytical methodology represents exactly the kind of strategic thinking we need to optimize performance across our portfolio companies, Margaret explained during our extended discussion following the conference. We have been seeking an executive with demonstrated expertise in manufacturing transformation who could assess improvement opportunities across multiple organizations while developing coordinated strategies that enhance overall portfolio performance. The opportunity Margaret described involved joining Consolidated Manufacturing Group as Vice President of Strategic Operations, with responsibility for analyzing operational effectiveness across all portfolio companies and implementing improvement initiatives that would enhance competitive positioning and financial performance throughout the organization. The role would provide exposure to diverse manufacturing environments, while enabling application of analytical methodologies across multiple organizational contexts simultaneously. The position represented substantial advancement in terms of compensation, responsibility, and strategic influence within the manufacturing industry. More importantly, the role would provide opportunities for testing the scalability and adaptability of analytical methods I had developed while building expertise in portfolio management and strategic coordination that could support continued career advancement toward senior executive positions. The decision to accept this opportunity required careful evaluation of how it would contribute to long-term career objectives while maintaining the systematic approach to capability development that had enabled success at Meridian Industrial Solutions. The role represented validation of professional expertise while providing a platform for demonstrating that analytical methods developed in one organizational context could generate superior results across diverse manufacturing environments. After thorough analysis of the strategic implications and career development potential, I accepted the Vice President of Strategic Operations position with Consolidated Manufacturing Group, understanding that success in this role would require adapting analytical methodologies to accommodate the increased complexity of managing improvement initiatives across multiple organizations with different operational characteristics, competitive challenges, and strategic objectives. The transition to Consolidated Manufacturing Group required several months of intensive preparation and analysis to understand the organizational structure, operational performance, and strategic positioning of each portfolio company. The 12 manufacturing operations included precision machining, automotive components, industrial equipment, consumer products, aerospace parts, and specialty materials companies that served diverse markets with varying competitive dynamics and operational requirements. The initial assessment phase involved conducting comprehensive operational evaluations at each portfolio company to identify improvement opportunities while understanding organizational cultures, management capabilities, and strategic constraints that would influence implementation approaches. This analysis required adapting the systematic methodology I had developed at Meridian to accommodate the diverse operational environments and varying organizational maturity levels across the portfolio. The operational assessment revealed significant variation in performance effectiveness, strategic positioning, and improvement potential across the portfolio companies. Several operations demonstrated exceptional performance in specific areas, while maintaining substantial improvement opportunities in others. Other companies exhibited systemic inefficiencies that were constraining competitive positioning and financial performance despite possessing strong technical capabilities and established client relationships. The most interesting discovery involved identifying improvement opportunities that could be addressed through coordinated initiatives across multiple portfolio companies rather than isolated organizational improvements. Shared challenges in supply chain management, quality control procedures, and strategic planning processes suggested opportunities for developing standardized approaches that could enhance performance throughout the portfolio while generating economies of scale and knowledge-sharing benefits. The development of coordinated improvement strategies required sophisticated understanding of how organizational changes in one portfolio company could impact operations and competitive positioning in related companies. The analytical framework needed to accommodate complex interdependencies while ensuring that improvement initiatives would enhance overall portfolio performance rather than optimizing individual companies at the expense of integrated effectiveness. The first major initiative involved implementing coordinated supply chain optimization across 6 portfolio companies that shared common supplier relationships and material requirements. The analysis revealed substantial opportunities for consolidating purchasing power, standardizing quality requirements, and coordinating delivery schedules that could reduce material costs while improving supplier relationship management and delivery reliability throughout the affected operations. The supply chain optimization project required extensive coordination between portfolio company procurement departments, along with comprehensive analysis of material specifications, supplier capabilities, and delivery requirements that could accommodate consolidated purchasing arrangements. The implementation challenged my project management and stakeholder coordination capabilities while providing valuable experience in managing complex initiatives across multiple organizational boundaries. The results of the coordinated supply chain optimization exceeded projected benefits in terms of cost reduction, delivery performance improvement, and supplier relationship enhancement. The consolidated purchasing arrangements generated material cost savings of approximately 18% across participating companies while improving delivery reliability and quality consistency through enhanced supplier partnership relationships and standardized quality assurance procedures. The success of this initial coordinated improvement initiative established credibility for the analytical approach, while demonstrating the potential value of portfolio-level strategic thinking that transcended individual company optimization. Margaret Thompson and the Consolidated Manufacturing Group senior management team recognized that systematic analysis could identify opportunities for value creation that were not apparent when companies were evaluated independently. The second major initiative focused on quality management system standardization across 8 portfolio companies that served clients with similar quality assurance requirements, despite operating in different industry segments. The analysis revealed opportunities for developing integrated quality control procedures, sharing best practices, and coordinating certification processes that could enhance quality performance while reducing compliance costs and administrative overhead. The Quality Management Standardization Project required detailed analysis of regulatory requirements, client specifications, and operational procedures across diverse manufacturing environments. The challenge involved developing standardized approaches that could accommodate different technical requirements while maintaining the flexibility necessary for each company to serve their specific client base effectively. The implementation of standardized quality management systems generated substantial improvements in quality performance metrics, while reducing certification costs and administrative requirements across participating portfolio companies. The coordinated approach also enhanced knowledge sharing between organizations, enabling rapid dissemination of best practices and process innovations that benefited overall portfolio quality performance. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.